What's going on, everybody? Bobby Fight and Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking about this 10-game MLB slate. So we didn't get a chance to talk this morning. I'm sort of curious to see where you're going to be at today. I didn't have a good night last night, but I'm trying it again for the 150 in the $5 and see if I can get that something done. How did you do? And then let's talk about today.
No, not too well yesterday. My biggest success, I guess, was in the knuckleball. I had a couple of lineups that were threatening, but I didn't even notice until this morning, so I didn't even get a chance to sweat it or whatever. Yeah, but overall, not great yesterday. I did take a look today, and obviously, for those that didn't know, the Yankee game is canceled. We kind of knew that was going to happen, and that leaves the other New York team getting all the ownership. So we have to decide what we want to do with that, with the Mets at Colorado, as far as stacks go. And as far as pitching went, it looks as though it's still those two freaking guys just gobbling up all the ownership, and I guess for good reason. Like Lopez and Castillo are just getting all of it. The next closest guys I have that's getting anything, I see Sonny Gray with like 25%. I'm seeing Imanaga, I guess, with 20%. Valdez and Rodriguez both look pretty low owned to me. Again, knowing nothing else except that these are guys that can pitch a little bit. You know what I mean? And they're 8,400, 8,500, and I've seen like 10, 12% owned. So those seem like natural pivots. And then the cheapo of the day is the Detroit guy. The Montero at 5,400. That's like kind of like the overall kind of look at the slate. I mean, what are you thinking in general?
Yeah, I'm shocked at how much spread out I got at pitching, because I think Castillo's got the obvious. So like I'm playing one lineup on FanDuel. Castillo will be in that lineup. I think it's pretty close between he, Gray, and Lopez. Lopez has got the incredible situation, but so does Imanaga. So I have like 25% or more of Imanaga, Lopez, Gray, and Castillo. And I actually, I'm high on I'm taking some shots on the Valdez thing, even though he struggled against Texas in the past. I just think, like you said, another good pitcher, you can get some low ownership. And then Valdez and Rodriguez are my next two. But I'm spread out a little bit. I've got 14% of Montero. I've got 12% of Brian Bello, who's no one's going to play. I've got almost 10% of Severino in Colorado, just because we've seen this story a million times. Maybe it's worth a gamble, And then the only other one that I have more than 5% of is Cannon from Chicago. Oh, I guess I have 5% of Stripling also, just because I don't know this is going to be a slate where you're going to get Castillo is a great example of like, he's not a guy I'm ever really worried about breaking a slate. Like it'll happen sometimes. Sure, it will happen for everybody. But there's nobody like in this spot where I think it's so sure of a thing. And this Minnesota Chicago total, I think that the right thing is to probably by the end of the day, I was going to be way high on Imanaga, but he initially looked like he was like, the projections this morning had it like 8% owned. And I was like, this can't be right. Now they've got it more accurately in the 20s. But I'm a little bit more spread out at pitching than I had than I would like to be, than I usually plan to. I just don't think that Lopez is a sure thing. I don't think that he's that much better than Castillo. I don't think that Castillo is that much better than him. I don't think that Sonny Gray is a little more expensive, and I just don't think there's a huge gap between these guys. My plan was going to be, if the Yankees did play, was to probably play more Gill than any of them. But as of right now, for my bigger buy-in stuff, it's mostly Imanaga, Castillo, followed by Lopez, followed by Gray. But again, I want to get exposure to some of these other guys who I feel like are going to just sort of be forgotten, where it wouldn't be surprising at all if they ended up being the highest scoring player on the slate.
What are you doing with the Mets?
No five mans. I may have accidentally had one in the lottery, but I don't want to say no. But my plan was to make sure I have four or less of everything for the Mets. But I'm fine using the pieces. I just don't necessarily. Again, I just think it's so hard to stack when really you don't have to worry about ownership at all once you just get past the Mets. So that's where I am personally. And the Mets are looking right now like, I mean, the Mets literally like everybody's like 20% owned or higher basically. And Atlanta is going to be like the next most popular maybe, but they're my favorite. And again, if you got guys, 10, 7, 5% owned on that, I have like 30% of my stacks are basically Atlanta stacks. That's sort of what I'm doing as my main stack. My next main stack is Colorado. And then on FanDuel, my stack is I'm giving away my whole lineup, but my stack is Seattle and Colorado. I think Seattle is the sneaky one that could get there.
The Mets are going to be, we talked about this. The Mets are going to be just incredibly popular, and how many times do we have to see this? Like Kyle Freeland just crushes souls sometimes. So. I haven't run all my stuff yet. I'm just kind of hoping to not get that much of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If no matter what I do, it wants me to play Mets, I'll end up having to be with the field, I suppose. But I prefer to not have it. I mean, the Yankees off the board. That's what when I looked at this earlier. I made a little video for myself earlier. I was testing the AI stuff. That it was Mets, then huge gap, then Yankees, then huge gap, right? So now that there's Yankees are gone, now it's Mets like huge gap. Right. So if I could avoid that somehow, if I could somehow body English, a game where they only score 6 runs or something like that, and it happens with like Lindor doubles and Nemo triples and whatever, then I just got to find the team to get there. And I actually do have Atlanta and Colorado as the next teams, just the ones that you mentioned. So nice. That's either good to know or bad to know, depending on your looks. And then after that, like if you didn't want to play any of those three, then you're really getting low owned. You know what I mean? Right. Then you don't really need to do too much. So those teams that I would identify as whatever's. Are Baltimore, KC as usual, and then the Phillies actually.
I got some Phillies as well, and I'm obviously a Kershaw guy, so I'm on board with that idea.
Yeah, and then we're down to like there's always you can always play Houston, you can always play the Dodgers or whatever. But those are the I mean, I think that what you're really supposed to do is if you want to play Castillo, Lopez together, like in the lottery, I think you want to get over on the all three of those stacks at the top, like no Colorado, Atlanta, or the Mets, unless you can hand build everything, you know what I mean, and or be really really good with the groups where you don't get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s in the Mets, and you get like 1, 5, 8, 9s or something like that.
Right.
What
Even
about
that might be tough. I'm just going to point out something about Kyle Freeland this year. He's only had 4 starts in Colorado because he was injured before. Guess how many runs he's given up in the 4 starts combined?
Like 15?
5.
Jesus.
He's thrown a quality start all but one time, and in that game he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. So I'm not saying. Look, he pitches to contact, so he's not a strikeout guy. And that's dangerous with the Mets against lefties and great hitting weather in Colorado. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying play him. I'm just saying if you want to find excuses to not play the Mets, there's plenty of them out there to me. And I kind of agree with what you said there. If if you're going to play, why would you even go for the secondary ones then? But if I have a 5-3 with Atlanta and Seattle, or a 4-4 with Atlanta and Seattle, I think I'm different enough. You know what I mean? Or give myself a chance to be.
Oh, I know what I was going to look at. All right, so. It doesn't even say.
Oh, I wanted to ask your take on something about the max entering too.
Yeah, just one other thing. Oakland's playing the White Sox again. I do have the White Sox again as decent values. I wanted to see what the attendance was yesterday in that game because I was predicting like probably one of the lower ones like ever.
Should be.
I mean, I saw visually it looked like really brutal. I'm trying to find it, and the normal like box scores that I would find, they're not listing it. Oakland Athletics, they're still the Athletics or the A's.
I think it would be. I think either one would be the same, right?
Yeah, let's see. What does it says? 600 Oakland A's attendance by game. It just doesn't look like I can. It used to be the easiest thing to find.
Right. And for some reason, it's like it showed up right when I started searching for it, like as if it was going to say, but now I'm just having
Yeah. How many fans are at the Oakland Coliseum? Abysmal, approaching record low. I mean, it used to be something they would put out like really, really quickly. And I just can't.
Here we go. So let's see. I've got it on Reddit. Under 3,000.
And there's a 6-hour traffic jam going to the game.
They're not saying anything about it. They're not saying the actual number. I don't know why. Yeah, that's very weird.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Let me see one more because today is going to be enough. But you know what? I think that maybe now there's just kind of like a whatchamacallit, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a morbid curiosity of like how many games the White Sox could lose again. You know what I mean?
Sure. There's
here it is. I have it. I have it on ESPN. Well, this is actually more than I thought.
What is it?
4,971.
Wow, that's like way more than I thought.
Yeah.
So the Reddit post that I was reading that was trying to set the line. They're like there hasn't been a game whatever under 3,000 or whatever. But their prediction was people were saying 2,200 was the over under last night. So
no, I think until the White Sox win a game, I think people will start coming to their games.
Yeah, that's possible.
I'm telling you, the morbid curiosity of like how bad they are and stuff.
Right. It also, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. But I have them as a value stack.
Yeah. So this lottery thing I wanted to ask you about because it's so many people and it's so top heavy. I set a limit where there was I put my max salary at $300 over. Now I even thought about going further with it. Like a lot of my lineups are 1,700, 1,800 left on the table. And for one, if you're going to play the Mets, that's the strategy I would try to do it with. I would try to leave money on the table. It's one other way to get different. But I don't think you need to. I mean, in baseball, you shouldn't realistically ever need to like use every bit of your salary for the most part. There's occasionally slates where it's different. But I thought this was a good slate for maybe just leaving, and I said that's the maximum I would go is to 300. 500 would have been a little bit more bold. But I think those are reasonable takes. You don't want to ever do that with basketball. But I do think it makes some sense for the baseball.
All right, so here's my opinion. As usually the case, okay, with baseball, and you have a 10-game slate. The only reason you would, to me, like ever want to leave money on the table is, in general, is to avoid getting duplicated. Okay.
Right.
And
well, isn't there also like okay, fair enough. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. And to me, usually in my 10-game, 8-game, 9-game baseball slates, there's just so many freaking combinations that I don't worry about that too much. But the only exception I would make is maybe, like you said, on a slate like a slate like tonight where you have concentrated chalk with the Mets. I think you could make a rule that specifically for the Mets games, you can leave money on the table for that. But I wouldn't intentionally leave money on the table for lineups. Let's say you got like a Baltimore, I don't know, whatever, Baltimore Texas stack or something like that. Why would you want to necessarily leave money on the table with that one?
Right.
So that would be my recommendation. If you did go through that, I would only do that in the stacks that you knew were going to be chalky.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, you mentioned the Phillies. I forgot to mention the Dodgers are actually my fourth highest owned stack. I point this out about Sanchez. It's not the kind of guy you want to pick on. He's been one of the worst pitchers in baseball on the road this season, and he's been probably the best at home this season. Now, you can't say that it's all worth everything. It's a small sample, all these things. Good hitting weather, Dodgers. I'm not like in love. Even the Atlanta thing. Like I really like Atlanta tonight. But Colin Ray has basically given up nothing for months. I keep trying to do it. So I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just take a shot with the Dodgers? They just faced Sanchez. They've seen him already. In that game, he got very, very fortunate to get out as easily as he did. I don't know. So I think the Dodgers and Phillies, oddly enough, with two aces on the, or two, whatever, a former ace and a current near ace. Thought it was kind of interesting to get some Dodgers. And this is a funny from Temming. He's writing in the chat. He says, fun fact, the most losses in Major League history in a row is 24. So if they lose, they would break the record against the Cubs at home, and it would be on firework night.
Wow.
So there's a fireworks after the game, no matter what. So can you imagine like the celebration for losing the most games in a row afterwards?
That's amazing.
We did just get a Dodger lineup in. Kiermaier's actually in the lineup, which is kind of interesting. Ohtani, Teoscar, Freeman. So basically what you'd expect, except Kiermaier's in there. And that's the big one that's different. But what is that different than? Who is going to be? Oh, was it Pages who was going to be in there? No, Pages is in there. I honestly don't even know who they didn't take. Let me just take a look here. So the previous Dodger projected lineup was, it had Gavin Lux in it. That's the difference. Which also makes everybody. Nick Ahmed's always a pinch hit risk anyway. Ahmed Rosario is completely a pinch hit risk, and he's batting fifth. They've got Hayward and Lux on the bench. The second they bring a righty in, those guys. Just to factor into your thoughts or whatever. And they got Cam the man asking me, good to see you, Cam, always. He said Jackson Holiday is 875 plus 875 to homer. So it's interesting because that is a good number. Now, we haven't seen much of it until very recently at the major league level. I think he's got like a total of 4 hits, but 2 of them are home runs in the last 4 games.
Right.
The guy is going to be a monster, and we'll be looking back and saying, when you remember he was going at plus 900 or plus 875, and he's hitting 50 home runs this year, so he should really be like 3 to 1, So I think it's good to get ahead on bets like that. I wouldn't count on it. He's batting 8th or 9th, I believe, 8th. I would definitely think that's a reason. I would be willing to take a shot with that bet, sure. You mentioned the Orioles too. Again, I'm a little bit spread out. I did the same thing though too, where I'm like way overweight the guys who I think are most likely to hit home runs. Ozuna, Ohtani. I have a ton of Pete Alonso, even though I'm not doing it in net stacks very much. I do think they probably get a couple home runs tonight. One of my highest owned players tonight is Miguel Vargas, and just because his price and he's leading off, and I still think there's talent there against Stripling, et cetera. But yeah, mostly I look through my stuff, and it's mostly Rockies, Braves, some Dodgers, and Oakland. That's the other one. And the White Sox. No matter what you do, Sheets, I'm curious if you run your builds, because SaberSim really, really wanted to push me. I did it the way you told me. Let's start off with their thing and then go from there. And they were trying to give me like 90% White Sox today.
Yeah, I wasn't getting as much as that, but they were definitely one of the top 3 owned stacks for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're cheap, and
yep.
And you know why they're cheap? Because they stink.
They stink.
That's a Bill James term, by the way.
Speaking of Bill James, sad passing today of Billy Beane.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he had a disease for a while, but he's a pretty young guy. He's 60 years old, but he's had a disease for a while. Anyway. So that's too bad. But anyway, back to baseball. Guys, pop in any questions or thoughts on the slate. I already know my Seattle.
It was definitely that Billy Beane, right?
Yeah. Right? 99% sure.
Yeah, there were 2 Billy Beans.
I know.
As a matter of fact,
the other Billy Beane, the problem was that the other Billy Beane was, he had this rare. I have a rare baseball card of his. It was like a misprinted card, and it was a big
error.
Yeah. So it was like, whatever it's called. So that was the only other thing. Yeah.
Well, I went actually to a Yankee game, like back in I guess the 80s or whatever it was, or early, whatever it was. And Billy Beane, the other Billy Beane from the Twins, was like a rookie or something. And he went freaking off in that game. Like he had like 5 RBI. He had like 5 RBIs in that game or something like that.
I think I got the wrong Billy Beane here, because I'm getting different information for which Billy Beane. And I'm 90% sure now I'm getting the wrong.
You think it was the guy for the Twins and not the A's guy?
I don't know if he played for he played for the Dodgers, Tigers, Padres. Yeah, I'm struggling with this one, but he did. So that's the one who passed away today, not the A's general manager. My bad on that one.
Okay. So never mind as far as Bill James goes.
Yeah, it totally threw me off the whole thing. I just and it's strange too because like I know there's an E at the end of Billy Bean with an E, but like these guys were playing and they were 2 years apart in age. The other Billy Bean is one of the first openly gay GMs or whatever.
That's the one who died, right?
That's the one who passed away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever he was. Yeah, I think this Seattle. So Cam's just like sort of seeing me this. That's why I like my one buy-in on FanDuel is 25% of my overall. Actually, it's more than that. It's like 35% of my overall entry fees today. So I figured, yeah, I didn't use them as much in the lottery stuff, and I'm really angry what I did because I initially planned specifically. I was like, I'm gonna play at the bottom of the order in my FanDuel lineup. I'm gonna play Dylan Moore because he always seems to come through. But Rojas is batting. I'm sorry. Polanco's been hot and he's batting fifth and more.
Yeah, here's Billy Bean. Yeah, 19. It was 1986 and 7. That's when I saw him. He was on the Twins.
Oh, okay, he was on there. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's too bad. Anyway, so I'm probably going to get out of here in like 10 minutes or so because I'd like to try to get the rest of my builds in with the Dodgers. I know there's some changes I have to make. Let's see what else has news today. Not playing any other slates. So guys, if you have any questions, pop them on in here. It's true that what Cam's saying is that it is strange that Vientos didn't get a price increase. I specifically went out of my way to try play less of them just because I don't want the stacks. I'll be happy to be near the field on Pete Alonso, on Lindor, on JD Martinez. I don't really want to just start doing that with all the Mets guys and have them all as one-offs all over the place. It feels like a little sloppy. So I'm trying not to do that. All right, what else is in here? And I did run it for, I'm playing a few in the what's it called as well. The one.
Well, hold on. Shows what I know. The guy I saw from the Twins was the Moneyball Billy Bean.
Oh, it was the other one. So okay, see, this is why it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep track of that. All right, stakes. Okay, and for the 111, just for what it's worth, out of my 6 entries, 2 are Atlanta stacks and 2 have Atlanta mini stacks. And 2 A's stacks, 1 Milwaukee stack, 1 Dodger stack.
Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of the Milwaukees now, by the way.
Yeah. Part of the reason I thought they looked good early was we thought Gary Sanchez would be in there hitting, or they was projected to be hitting third, and he, of course, didn't make the lineup. So I'm wondering how many people end up playing them because they're a strange price to team. Like, I don't know if you look at their prices, you know what I'm talking about. Why is Colorado? Oh, they released their lineup. Okay, so they're just like we thought. Okay, at least what I had for them. Let me just double check. That's weird. They haven't updated it. Did they do it a while ago? Maybe
what?
They did. For some reason, the Rockies didn't show up. I don't have the Rockies lineup in front of me, and I'm trying to find out why that is. But I've got it. It's just not in front of me. All right, now it is. Blackman, Tovar, Doyle, McMahon, Rogers, Bryant, Tolia, Diaz, Cave. Pretty much exactly what we thought, I think. Maybe there's somebody who might have snuck in, but I don't.
Well, I'll tell you something's pretty cool. The Kiermaier's in. You thought he was like optioned out or something like that, right?
So the notification was that they would have to send somebody down, is what it turns out the notification meant. And they included those 2 names, but Rosario played that night. So I was like, okay, well, that's not going to be the one. But then I think they sent down Outman, and I can't remember who the other one was that they did.
How'd the Padres do today?
I don't know why.
Because it was Cease's thing. I was supposed to bet against him.
Oh, good question. I don't know if it started. Oh, that game's delayed or something.
Oh, okay.
I saw a note on that game. I think it was delayed. Maybe it wasn't. Diamondbacks, Guardians. There was something about that game that I saw earlier, but nothing that's seems relevant here. Let me see real quick. Okay. Oh no, maybe it's not. I don't know. It hasn't started yet. All right.
I gotta go bet against them then.
Yeah, you can do it. Just got time.
Dude, you can bet it all night long.
You mean even while it's going?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Don't make me mad, man. It's too nice.
Bet all night long.
It's too messed up. Cam, good luck to you as well. Go Dodgers for sure.
I hope that they we'll do a golf thing tomorrow. I don't know if they're gonna play.
What's happening? The weather?
Yeah, it's like terrible weather forecast for that area.
Interesting.
Maybe they'll play one day. I don't even know. I have to see.
See, I hated that they did that earlier this year. I think I understand why they have to, but like, man, to win a tournament when you have a one-stroke lead because of a good Saturday, it just feels strange. Like,
oh yeah, what happened with that?
That was the one Wyndham won at Pebble Beach.
Oh yeah, he'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like that happens in NASCAR sometimes. Like you get the rain delay, and then like the guys who were in front, just root for it to not start again.
Yeah. And Wyndham sort of after a terrible start in this last week, he shut a lot of people up by how well he played on the weekend.
He sure did. He really came on at the end there.
There were so many people just going nuts about Bryson not being in there and him being in there, and people are like, "Oh, it's because of Trump," and I'm like, "This has nothing to do with it. Whatever it is, that's not the reason why." Yeah, Trump, it was so stupid. It's just Twitter's an ugly place sometimes. Oh man,
because of Trump. Okay.
Because he golfs with him, like whatever. Anyway, so Blackman isn't. Why is he not updating on DK? It happened to me once where I finished when they had one of these knuckleballs. It was a couple of years ago where it was like the 50K for first or whatever, but I finished like fourth or fifth or something. I think it was. I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was somewhere right in the top. And I accidentally had a player who wasn't in. I just didn't make the adjustment.
All right, I want to go because I'm doing another thing for Saber Sim where I'm gonna do another kind of lineup build or something. So I want to go so I can record that.
Love it. It's great.
And yeah, so I will see you tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, I'm hustling to make it up. My plan is to be there at 9. I've got to drive up at like 6 a.m. and taking my son back up at home. So
okay,
should be there, but I'll let you know if there's any